So,
Yeah, there we go. Hello, everyone. So I am Rabbi Bret. It is always a pleasure to be back in Cape Town, especially with Temple Israel. It's especially wonderful to see all the Cheder people here today. And when Rav Greg told me that the Cheder students were going to be here, I thought, okay, what would be an interesting text study? What is more interesting, especially on Shabbat morning, than talking about the devil? So that is what we are going to do today. And it's not random. The reason why we are doing this is we have a very troubling passage in this week's Parsha. What's the Parsha this week? Who can tell me? It says on the top of the sheet for those. Re'eh, good, which means to see, as Rav Greg was talking about last night. There is this troubling passage in this week's Parsha that I want to talk briefly about. But what I want to focus on, of all the many things there are to focus on with this passage, is a little phrase that I bolded in the English about B'nai Belial, and what does that mean? So can I have somebody read for us in the English this first passage at the very top? Any brave readers in the audience? We have a reader? Yeah, Rachel, right? Okay.
To the midst doom, it all had said that is into destruction.
All right, thank you so much. So essentially, on the surface level, what this text is saying is that if you have this city called an Ir Nidachat, which is full of these people called B'nai Belial, which the text here translates as scoundrels, troublemakers. We'll see a couple other versions of what this could mean. You actually have an obligation to destroy the city. That's what it says. But before we panic and we say, seriously, the Torah is commanding us to destroy an entire city, the rabbis deal thoroughly with this. If you look in the Hebrew, I bolded three little words here on the second line. It says, V'darashta v'hakarta v'sha'alta, which basically means you shall look deeply into the matter, you should investigate, and you should ask. And the rabbis say, okay, so there are three actions described to investigate this city. What the rabbis say is, even though the Torah tells us that we need to destroy the city, never once in history has this ever happened. There are three times, the Talmud says in Sanhedrin, there are three times that the Torah tells us to do something that we would see as abhorrent. What does the word abhorrent mean? It's like disgusting and just like, really? That? You want me to do that thing? No. There are three things. The first is the Ben Sorer Umoreh. Who here knows what the Ben Sorer Umoreh is? You did. Rav, what is the Ben Sorer Umoreh? The stubborn and rebellious child. And the rabbis go deeply into, okay, so they're mischievous. Who here thinks that they're a little bit of a troublemaker? I would include myself in this group. Don't be shy here, people. Be proud. Be proud. You guys are the change makers. So the rabbis will go into what does it mean to be a stubborn and rebellious child. They embellish it and go to the nth degree. And they finally say, and I didn't mention this, what do you think the punishment would be? It's a very similar theme to this for the wayward and rebellious child. You got to stone him at the gate. That's what it says. It is rough. But wait, stone him at the gate, which means pelt him with rocks. What the rabbis say, though, is this has never once occurred ever, even though it says it in the Torah. And so they ask an obvious question. If it's never happened, why list it in the Torah? And the rabbis say, drosh v'kabel schar, because you are going to study this passage, you will realize you will make it impossible for this to ever be done. And when you make it impossible for that law to ever occur, God will reward you for that. So the rebellious and wayward child, that is one time the rabbis say this has never happened. This city to be condemned and doomed also has never happened. And the rabbis say, why has no city ever been destroyed? Because they say, even if there is a single mezuzah, and by the way, we're only talking about towns in ancient Israel. If there's a single mezuzah in this town, for the sake of that one mezuzah, you cannot destroy this town. So the rabbis do a lot of work to make sure this has never happened. The third instance that this happens, where the rabbis say, it says it in the Torah, but we've never done this. If your house has leprosy on it, we think the word is translated as leprosy. It probably means some kind of gross mold situation. You need to destroy that house. They also said that's never happened either. So we have these passages here where they sound horrible when you read them on the pshat, on the simple level, but the rabbis do a lot to say, yeah, it says that, but we've never done this. So what I want to focus on today is, what does this phrase B'nai Belial mean? And what we're going to see is that Judaism says it means one thing, but then the Christian tradition actually says it means something else. And this is where we're going to get our conversation of the devil in here. So first, let's just look at the Jewish view. Rashi, who is the most famous biblical commentator, lived in Franco-Germany in the 11th century. He says, what is this name Belial? It is actually a compound word that's Beliol, which means without a yoke. Not Y-O-L-K, but Y-O-K-E. What is a yoke? I feel like people in South Africa understand animals a lot better than Americans do, so somebody knows what this means. What is a yoke? Think about an ox. It's like a heavy wooden thing that you put on an animal, on your ox, and then your ox pulls your plow through your field, and it takes 5 minutes to plow your field versus you with a shovel would take all day, right? So in Judaism, the word yoke, which is ol, means the obligation to follow mitzvot. So Belial means without a yoke. The people of this town feel no responsibility to follow mitzvot. They feel no responsibility to follow the word of God. Bless you. This town is full of people like this. This is what Rashi says. And Ibn Ezra, who is another one of our very famous commentators, he says actually Belial is a name. It is a proper name. It's like calling me Bret. Belial is someone's name. But there are those who say it's a compound word. He's referring to Rashi. There are those who say Belial is not a name. It just means without a yoke, right? So they are making an effort here to say this word just means people who are not following the mitzvot. What's very interesting is if you look down into the next text box, I gave you a line from the Book of Kings from the Vulgate Bible. The Vulgate is the Latin translation of the Bible from St. Jerome in the 3rd century. And if you look in the English here, what he writes is, there came in 2 men, children of the devil, but devil is a translation of the word Belial, and sat before him. The men of the devil, Belial, witnessed against him, even against Naboth, in the presence of the people. So the Christian tradition, at least the very early Christian tradition, takes this name Belial and says it's not a compound word. It doesn't mean people who are not following mitzvot. It actually is a proper name for the devil. And through Christian literature, Belial becomes a very prominent name for the devil. So I want to when we talk about the devil, there is a lot of images that come to mind for people. There are a lot of associations with the devil. On some weird level, it's a fun topic to talk about. So I just want to poll the audience. When you think devil, what comes to mind for you? What images, what associations do you have with the devil? And you can just kind of call it out. Evil intentions. Okay. What was that? Horns, okay. Red eyes. Pitchfork. Fire. Hell. Okay, good. Yes, Rachel? Yellow teeth. Very specific. I like it. Okay, what else? The football team are the Red Devils. Okay, there we go. They play dirty, maybe. What else? What other associations do we have? Beelzebub. So that's another name that we find in the Bible. That becomes another. So Belial and Beelzebub are interchangeable as names for the devil. Yeah. Yes. Pointy tail. Okay, let's talk about the devil's personality a little bit. How would you describe this? I don't know if it's a male or female. It's not really clear, but yeah. What was that? Dragon. Oh, a dragon. Okay, yeah, for sure. Let's talk about personality. Yeah. Evil. Okay, very good. He might be a little fun too. He's like a little trickster as well, right? If you ever see any famous movies with the devil meets, in American pop culture, there's a very famous musician named Robert Johnson who famously meets the devil at the crossroads, who he was a talentless musician. He meets the devil at the crossroads. The devil makes a deal with him. We don't know if this part's a true story, but what happens next is a true story. The devil says, if you sell me your soul, I will make you one of the most famous musicians in history. Robert says, that sounds great to me. Just make me a famous musician. This guy was completely talentless. He comes back to his community, and he's the greatest musician anyone has ever heard. And this happens a year later after he left the first time. And so a legend grows that he sold his soul to the devil in order to become this great musician. So one thing the devil does is the devil likes to make a good deal. Just sell me your soul. It's like when Aesop sold his birthright, not a huge deal, and I'll make you rich and famous. I'll do whatever you want. Okay, let's do a couple more because these are fun. Yeah, Rachel. Well, say it again. Oh, rude and soulless. Yeah. Okay. Sometimes when you trick somebody into buying their soul, that's pretty rude and also literally very soulless. Yes. Uh-huh. Y- 100%. Yeah, and also you've anticipated my little Bitmoji on the back of the sheet. If you look, I did put a little angel baby and a little devil baby on the back. So we will be getting there. Very good. Yes, ma'am. By the way, how much time do we have? Okay, great. Yeah. An angel scorned. Yes. Yeah. So very good transition there. Yes. So you said it's like an angel scorned. This legend becomes very famous in John Milton's Paradise Lost. The idea that I think his name in the book is Lucifer, which means actually the light carrier, led a rebellion against God, and then God wins obviously and throws them all from heaven, and they all descend down, and then they hit what becomes hell. And actually, this is where we get the name pandemonium. The word pandemonium generally means chaos, but it means a place that's full of demons. And that's the name that Lucifer names hell. It's called pandemonium because those are all the spurned angels fall down there and become these demonic figures. And this then becomes, in the Christian theology, in the Christian imagination, this becomes the reality of where you go when you die. So often in Judaism, we love to say, oh, don't worry, Jews don't believe in hell. And this is true. We do not. And we're going to talk about why we don't have a devil figure either. But I think it's also important to note that, hold on, is there a devil in the Bible? And we do have some precedent in the Bible where the devil does show up in a very prominent place. Where does the devil show up as very much a main character in our Bible? Yes, very good. The book of Job. You might say Garden of Eden. In the Garden of Eden, it is a snake that shows up. Christian tradition, again, will say, oh, it wasn't a snake, it was actually Satan. The plain meaning of the text just does say it was a snake, but Christian theology does a lot with that imagery as well. That also might be where we get the dragon idea from, like the snake, the dragon, it all fits and it all connects together. But the devil does appear in the book of Job, and I want to be very clear here. When I'm talking about devil, whose name in Hebrew is Satan, or Satan in the Hebrew, we are not imagining the red guy with the pointy ears and the tail and the horns and the fire breathing out of his face. We translate Satan in the book of Job as the adversary. Now, what does the word adversary mean? If you're adversarial, how does that describe you? Competitive, okay, yeah. And you love to challenge. You love to challenge. So if I were to say, oh yeah, we don't believe in hell in Judaism, if you're an adversarial person, you would say, no, Rabbi, you are wrong. We do believe in hell in Judaism. And then you would start to give me all these reasons about why what I said was wrong. Judaism loves dynamics like this. And so what in our tradition, the best study partner you could possibly have is not somebody who agrees with you on what you say. It's somebody who mamash disagrees with you about what you say. Why is it better to study with somebody who disagrees with you? Exactly. One of the most famous Chavruta pairs in history is Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Why do they love each other? Because Rabbi Yochanan was this brilliant scholar, but every time he made a point, Reish Lakish would literally give him 24 reasons for why he was wrong. And Rabbi Yochanan's Torah became way, way, way sharper as a result of it. And in the end of the story, Reish Lakish dies, and Rabbi Yochanan literally does not know how to live the rest of his life without his Chavruta because nobody else could challenge him the way Reish Lakish could. So if this is the way that Judaism sees the Chavruta pair, the way that God sees the adversary is, what do you think the devil's role is with God? What does God want from the devil? The challenger, the adversary. So we imagine in Judaism that Satan is actually God's Chavruta partner, which is a very different image than the Christian idea of the red devil who tries to buy your soul. God says to the devil in the book of Job, and I think we're just going to summarize this because we probably have 5 minutes at this point. I'm losing track of time here. God says to the devil, hey, look how great my world is. Look how wonderful my servant Job is. And Satan says to God, the only reason why this guy Job is so great and why you love him so much is because you made him rich and wealthy. You gave him a big family. He's very honored in his community. The adversary says to God, watch what happens when you take away his wealth and you take away his family and you take away his prestige. You're not going to like him anymore. He's going to start to curse you. And the God says to him, you're on. And God says, you can take everything away from Job, just don't touch his body. And the devil takes away his family, takes away his wealth, burns up all of his crops. And Job is one of the most incredible books in the Bible because it is 42 chapters of Job wrestling with God and saying, this great injustice happened to me. It is one of the most honest texts we have in world literature on the nature of evil. If you've never read this book, I highly recommend it. We just passed Tisha B'Av, which is the holiday that I don't know if we call it a holiday, but I guess it's a holiday. The holy day, maybe, where we're supposed to study this book. But it is 42 chapters on the nature of evil. But again, this is the devil's role in Judaism is to be the challenger and to basically make God's world better because we have a divine being that's constantly forcing God to question all of God's decisions. So in Judaism, I want to go back to our parashah because a couple chapters later, the name Belial, which again is a proper name for the devil, at least in Christian tradition, the word appears 27 times in the Hebrew Bible, only twice in the 5 books of Moses, and both times are in this parashah itself. So in Deuteronomy, if you go to page 2 and you see where it says Deuteronomy 15:9, it says, beware lest you harbor a thought of Belial in your heart, saying, the 7th year, the year of remission, known as Shemitah in Judaism, is approaching, so that you are mean and give nothing to your needy kin, who will cry out against you, and you will incur guilt. Okay, so in this context, when it says, if you harbor a thought of Belial, what does it mean to harbor a thought of Belial in this parasha? Yes? Thought of evil. Okay, good. So a thought of evil. And what is the evil thought in this particular case? Yeah? Okay, so possibly. So a thought that God is not a divine one. What are you doing in this particular passage that would be a thought of Belial? It's pretty literal in this passage. You're not willing to help somebody who is in need. You are greedy. You say, this money is mine. I don't need to give you my money. Like I worked for this money. The Torah is saying the moment you say that, the moment you say what is mine, you are harboring a thought of Belial. And if we're reading this the way Rashi reads it, you're saying, I have no responsibility for my family member. I have no responsibility for my community member. This is my money. If they want money, they can go out and they can work and make their own money. The Torah is saying, don't do that. If somebody asks you for help, you need to help them. And if you're not helping them, that is a thought of Belial. So for Judaism, Belial is not this personified, divine, scary, mischievous trickster being that you're going to meet at the crossroads. Belial is the thoughts and the impulses, the negative thoughts and impulses in you. It is greed, it is selfishness, it is all those things that make us, I guess, relegate us and make us move further away from God. In Judaism, we would call this the Yetzer Hara. What does the Yetzer Hara mean, if we were to translate that? the evil intention like the evil inclination, the evil impulse. So for Judaism, again, the devil is not this personified being living outside of you. It is an evil impulse or a wicked or bad impulse that is within you. And on the eve of Rosh Chodesh Elul, because we have to have an ulachein, what is the so what of this? We have this very beautiful mystical system that really gains traction in the Hasidic movement over the last 300 years called Musar. Musar basically means character development. Yeah, Rachel, do you have a question before we move to Musar? Yeah. Was the devil ever nice? Was the devil ever... Well, okay, I'll put it this way. Obviously, the devil in the Yetzer Hara gets a bad rap, right? We like to say, oh, devil is bad. Mystical Judaism does not make that claim. Mystical Judaism says that the evil impulse is actually, even though it looks bad, it's actually kind of a good thing. Why is the evil impulse a good thing? We need it. There is a story in the Talmud that says that angels took the evil impulse or the devil, and they put it in a cage underneath the ocean, and there was no more evil impulse. And they said on the day that they put the evil impulse in prison, chickens stopped laying eggs. That was the example that they gave. And they said people stopped working. There was no more motivation. It says without having that evil impulse, without having that voice in your head that says, oh, no, you don't need to do that, you would have no motivation at all to do anything. And therefore, the Yetzer Hara actually has a very real job in your life, which is the Yetzer Hara is the thing that makes you mature, it makes you grow, it makes you strive to do things in the world. So that's actually a much more positive spin on why we have this. And so the idea is this isn't a bad thing, this is actually a good thing, as long as, and very important point, as long as you know how to harness it correctly, it's a good thing. Yes? Yep.
You have to work to be good.
Absolutely.
Society degrades into pandemonium.
Yes.
If you don't.
100%. And what Judaism will also say is that when you look out and you think of who is the most righteous person I could possibly think of, so in South Africa, who would you point to as a person that immediately comes to mind for you, and you say, oh, like that to me is a role model of a righteous person? Who would that be? Who? I don't know. Okay, good. That's a good one. Okay, what else? Who else? Nelson Mandela. Let's do one more. Bishop Tutu. Okay, so you get the idea, right? What Judaism would say, which sounds totally contradictory, is that the Yetzer Hara in those individuals is far more powerful than it is in anyone else's. You cannot become Bishop Tutu, you cannot become Nelson Mandela, and you cannot become the captain of the Springbok team unless you have a very, very powerful Yetzer Hara in your mind, because the only reason why those people became so great in the first place was they had an inner adversary that was telling them, I can't, you can't, and they had to constantly fight that voice, and in the process of fighting that voice, they became these larger than life, superhuman figures, right? So the Yetzer Hara has a very important place. So I want to conclude with this cute little chart that I made at the bottom here that says Musar, character education. Musar, again, is when you work on what we call midot. Midot are things like courage, bravery, resilience, discipline, a strong work ethic, all those good things. We have these positive traits, and then we have the inner adversary, the thing that's telling us, no, you shouldn't do that. So I'm pretty sure I pulled this from Alan Morinis' book, Everyday Holiness. He says, okay, let's just say you want to have more discipline. First of all, this is not bound to any specific age category. I think everybody in this room could agree. Having slightly more discipline, always a good thing. Staying slightly more focused, very good thing. If I want to work on my discipline, what do? He says that there are these moments of choice that he calls bechira points. And the bechira point is, I know I should be doing my homework right now, but I'm just going to play 10 more minutes of Halo. What's your favorite video game? You guys would know. Which one? Is it Halo? Do you guys play video games? What's your favorite video game? Halo? Okay, I'm just going to play 10 more minutes of Halo, right? I can study for that test when I'm done. You turn on the machine, and then next thing you know, 3 hours have gone by, and all of a sudden your night is totally destroyed. By the way, this isn't just about video games. I think for adults, it could be, I'm just going to watch 20 more minutes of Curb Your Enthusiasm or The Bear or whatever you guys watch in this country. For us, it's The Bear. I'm just going to watch one more episode. Next thing you know, 4 hours have gone by. You don't even know what happened. And this project or those emails that you said you were going to answer, everyone's nodding, right? Everybody has. This is a very universal experience. What he says is that exact, and this is very important, people, so I want you to listen to this. That moment where you say, I'm just going to watch one more episode, that's called the Bechira point. Because you are right now, you're at a crossroads. You're Robert Johnson at the crossroads, okay? And you're saying, I know I should answer those emails. I know I should study for that test. I'm just going to play one more round of Halo. I'm just going to watch one more episode of the show. That is actually the Yetzer Hora in your head. And you have a choice to make at that point, which is, can I discipline myself a little bit to not play one more episode, to not play one more round of that game, or to watch one more episode? Can I say, nope, I'm not going to fall for that one again. I know that's going to ruin my whole night. Instead, I'm going to do the thing that I know I'm going to do. And he says, if you're able to do that, if you're able to make the right choice at that crossroads, that's how you grow. That's how you use the Yetzer Hora not as something that conquers you, but as an inner adversary that's going to help you grow stronger. Shabbat shalom, everyone.